Sarcoma Stories is a podcast created by Sarcoma Foundation of America to highlight the voices and experiences of patients, survivors, and care partners. After listening, be sure to join our Sarcoma Stories podcast Facebook group to connect with the community and discuss the episode. Follow us and enable notifications on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss new episodes. You can also find all episodes and information on this subtype or your subtype on SFA's website, curesarcoma.org. Links are in this episode's description. In this episode, we sit down with Kate DeForge, who was diagnosed with undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma as a young adult. Kate opens up about what it's been like navigating young adulthood with sarcoma and shares the mindset and philosophy that have shaped how she lives her life since her diagnosis. We're also joined by Kate's sister, Kristen, who offers her personal perspective on being on the sarcoma journey with a sibling. She reflects on her role in Kate's care and how she helps bring a sense of normalcy to everyday life. It's immediately clear that Kate and Kristen are a dynamic duo. They balance one another, communicate with the unspoken understanding that only siblings share, and together tell a powerful, honest story of how sarcoma is a family disease. Thank you, Kate and Kristen, for joining us and sharing your journey. Let's dive in. Welcome to Sarcoma Stories, and welcome back if you listen regularly. My name is Tasha. I'm one of your hosts.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brandy, and I'm your other host.
And we are so fortunate today to have Kate and Kristen with us. This is the first time on Sarcoma Stories that we have had a sibling duo join the show. So welcome, Kate and Kristen. I'm going to have you both introduce yourselves first as people before we get into why you're even on a Sarcoma Stories podcast. So who wants to kick it off?
I can do it. I'm Kate. I am the one with sarcoma and was diagnosed in 2023.
And Kate, who are you as a person outside of sarcoma?
Outside of sarcoma, I am a happy-go-lucky, going on day to day, enjoying my dog, enjoy sports. I'm currently living in Chicago, so I have like a great sports base here, which is great. Truly love the winter, which I know it might be an unpopular opinion, but
Very unpopular.
yeah.
Very...
I am a winter fanatic. Love reading books as well.
And just to say something that Kate wrote for her intro, she literally wrote, "I am just out here enjoying life, my family, and my friends one day at a time." And I was like, that is Kate. That is 100% Kate.
Totally.
Kristen, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Kate's younger sister. It's just the two of us. I live in Vermont right now. My husband's in the Coast Guard and he's in Oregon. So me and our 16-year-old son, who everybody thinks is Kate's because he is literally, except for the fact that he has very long hair, he is just like Kate in pretty much every way. But yeah, I think when you ask, like, what's your life like? I think we both are like, what's our life like now compared to what it was, 3 years ago? So you have to kind of think it that way.
Totally. Does it feel like there's a before and after with sarcoma?
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah. It's like the day that everything changed. And it wasn't even, I don't even think it was like the diagnosis day that just one day she was texting me and an hour later she was on a ventilator. And it's like, okay, we were sending each other TikTok. It's a significant life event, the things you remember in your life. Moon landing, sarcoma day.
Yeah. Moon landing, sarcoma day. Well, I think that's a good segue into, Kate, what is the origin of your sarcoma story?
In December of 2022, I was just really struggling to breathe on any type of exertion. And I live in Chicago proper, actually. I live in a 4-flat and I'm on the top floor, no elevator. So I was like really feeling the effects of like not breathing. It was a weird thing to even like try to describe. But at first it was like, oh my God, am I just out of shape? And I was like, this is a little bit more than I think out of shape. Like, I'm no Olympic athlete, but I should be able to breathe going up 3 flights of stairs. So I had my annual PCP visit. I got my blood work done. That was all normal. They listened to my heart, they listened to my lungs. Again, it was all normal. My PCP decided, like, let's do a pulmonary function test just to see if something's going on in there, we can kind of like attack it that way. So I had that set up, but I was actually supposed to go to the Green Bay Packers Monday Night Football game. And I said to the people I was going with, I was like, I'm not going to be able to walk from the car to my seat. Like, I cannot breathe. So I can't go. So then I was like, I probably should go to the ER. So when I went to the ER and they pulled like a D dimer test, they initially thought maybe like a pulmonary embolism. And then they put me in the CT scan. And when you get a CT, you have to lift your arms above your head. And what we know now is when I lifted my arms above my head, my tumor was actually like pedunculated. So it had a stalk and it flipped into my mitral valve. So I went into respiratory failure. So they came in and it was like chaos. You can imagine, like, all my numbers were like crazy. My blood pressure was crazy. They came in, they're trying to give me BiPAP, and I'm kind of saying that's not working, that's not working. And so then they were like, okay, the only thing we can do is like ventilate you. And I was like, just do it. And then that's all I remember. And like 7 days later, I woke up and they finally got me off the vent. And in that time frame, I had open heart surgery, which they initially thought was a myxoma, which is a benign tumor in your heart. It usually forms in your left atrium, which is where my tumor was. And when they cut me open, my cardiac surgeon was like, this is not a myxoma. This is some sort of cancer. We don't know what it is. Of course, this is 2 days before Christmas. So no one's in for pathology. It took like 3 weeks to get my pathology back. And so they ended up not being able to salvage my mitral valve. So they had to put in a mechanical mitral valve. So I got that. They removed all of the tumor that they could see. I was finally extubated, which took forever because I kept failing the test because, the longer you're on ventilation, you just become lazy, right? Because it's breathing for you. So it's so much harder to get off of it. So I finally got off of that, and the doctor came in once I was like extubated, and they were like, the tumor we took out is cancerous. We don't know what it is. We think it's a sarcoma. That's normally what they are when we see heart cancers. And she was like, unfortunately, like, you probably have 9 to 12 months. We anticipate it's everywhere in your body. And she's like, we think it's a cardiac sarcoma, and it's so rare that I probably won't see another one again.
When you were ultimately put on the ventilator and you said you woke up 7 days later, is that because they put you in an induced coma? Is that why, or what happened?
So I went in on a Saturday, and weirdly enough, my dad puts in pacemakers. So he knows about cardiac sarcoma. And we can remember growing up, he would come home and be like, at least you don't have a cardiac sarcoma. And then weirdly enough, I have one. But it's weird when you're kind of out of it. Like, I could kind of hear, but like I was not with it at all. And they were basically, they didn't put me in a medically induced coma, but they kept me so kind of out of it that it would keep my heart rate down so my heart could pump somewhat normally. And then they were doing a lot of tests. Like, I got a transesophageal echo so they could kind of see where it is. I was getting echoes like every day to see if it's growing. Is it moving? Is there other things? But really what we were waiting for is the surgeon. We wanted a certain surgeon to do it. And so we were waiting for her to come back on. And that's
And
why they kept me.
and when they told you you most likely have this cardiac sarcoma and probably have 9 to 12 months, you didn't have all the information back yet. They were just throwing this at you without any
Ye-
information.
Yeah, because so I immediately hear cancer, right? And so then my next question I think was like, well, what's my prognosis? And the surgeon, she was like, I'm not an oncologist, but I know as like a surgeon or a cardiac surgeon that has dealt with cardiac sarcoma, Because it's not a myxoma, I'm guessing that it's a sarcoma, most likely, and there's not a good prognosis for this, is basically what she was saying to me.
We were trying to get her home as quickly as possible before Christmas. And it was, of course, there was a huge blizzard. My parents had to move into the hotel across the street from the hospital. And what they said was, we're going to get her home and she's going to have a good Christmas, her last Christmas. We're going to
Wow.
give her a good last Christmas.
Wow. And Kristen, I imagine you just said before this, you and Kate are sending TikToks back and forth, and then the next thing you know, she's on a ventilator. What is going through your mind as her younger sibling as this is happening?
So that whole week, my dad had sent her a heart rate monitor because her heart rate was over 100 just walking from her kitchen to her bedroom. And she was doing all of the things she was supposed to do. She was going to her doctor. She got her blood work. She got a chest x-ray at urgent care. It was read as fine. I had seen her at Thanksgiving. So this was December 17th was our day, our D-Day, if you will. And so I had seen her at Thanksgiving. That might have been the first time I had been to your place, Kate. And she had told me, listen, don't feel bad. I have to take breaks on my stairs. So I don't want you to feel bad. And she was taking a break at every stop. And something was just off. So when that happened, it was like 11 something. She had sent me a TikTok and, her heart rate was really high and it was just freaking her out. And it was 1:00 in the afternoon, 2:00 in the afternoon, maybe. And my mom called me and said, your sister's on a ventilator. And it was very flat. And it was just very like, I don't know what happened. And so I was like, well, I'll get you on a plane today to Chicago. Everybody was kind of panicking. I was sick. So my dad was like, she is intubated. She's on a ventilator. You're not coming anywhere close to here. We couldn't get there. I lived in Vermont. There was a snowstorm. It was Christmas. It was every possible problem you could have. Once we found out it was cancer, Kate just kept saying, don't Google it. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. So I don't think I've Googled it till this day. I don't know. I really don't think I have. I think I just kind of know all the things I know about it from Kate.
And so,
But
Kate, when all of that happened, you were in the hospital, you were there alone.
Well, my ex was with me, so I did have someone with me, but then like immediately my parents flew in. So I think I was admitted maybe at like 2 and my parents got in at like 9 or 10 that night. And then, I mean, luckily for me, they haven't left really my side. They've been splitting time, Chicago and where they live in South Carolina.
And so what you've just described as the beginning of your journey, at what point did they do a biopsy after this open heart surgery and they say this is a sarcoma and this is the kind that you have and describe your subtype? At what point do they determine that for sure?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure what happened was in the surgery they did the immediate flash frozen one where they can kind of like quickly get something at least. And it was kind of going back between like angiosarcoma and UPS, which is what I have, the undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma. So what they did was they took that sample. I mean, I didn't even go to a step down unit. They literally thought it was my last Christmas. They had PT come in. I got a crash course. And because I have the mechanical valve, right, I have to be on an anticoagulant the rest of my life. So I had to get a crash course in like blood thinning. I had to get a crash course in like checking INR.
we found a nurse that would come to the apartment too.
Yeah, it was wild. And then they sent me home. It took forever for me to get a PET scan because the holiday, the start of a new year, etc. I finally get a PET scan.
Friday the 13th.
Nowhere.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's nowhere. They were like, so I left the hospital and they're like, all right, you're going to light up like a Christmas tree. Like, we think it's probably going to be everywhere. And I go to the PET scan and nothing. There was nothing anywhere.
And I think Kate, it came to like your My Chart first and you were with Dad or something. And Dad was like reading it and you're like, it's nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I love that I can read my My Chart. and decompress and get my questions in order. I think I would rather that than like getting a call being like, hey, like I have an update. Like I want to be able to see it. But because I hadn't been in the oncology world yet, I didn't know what any of this meant. So I'm trying to read this stuff and the guy's not around yet. So I'm like Googling all this stuff. I don't know what it means. And then I go see my oncologist and I'm sitting there and I'm like, so is it nowhere? And he's like, yeah, it's nowhere. And I'm like, okay. So then I think like, oh, I'm good. And he's like, but you need to go get AIM right now. And I'm like, okay, what's AIM? And so he's telling me, it's adriamycin, iphosphide, mesna, right? He's like, you're gonna have to go inpatient and do that. So I did six cycles of AIM. The additional barrier that I have is because obviously when you get chemo, it drops all of your blood levels, but I have to watch my platelets because I'm on an anticoagulant. So my valve was not, I didn't have it long enough, so it wasn't strong enough, right? So they measure these things, the mean gradient across your valve. How well is it seated? How well is it pumping? So I would go in for my 5 days of chemo, inpatient. I would come home for a couple days. I would have to readmit back to the cardiac unit for a heparin drip because if my platelets fall below 50, you have to stop the anticoagulation. And if when they rise above, you have to restart it, but it has to be like through heparin. It was just an absolute mess. And then while I'm in there, in the cardiac unit, I'm developing neutropenic fever. So like the cardiac team is like, I don't know what to do with you because you got to be here for heparin, but you're also developing this neutropenic fever where you should really be on the cancer floor. So the AIM was like a mess, but I barreled through, got through it. I did the 6 cycles. Then I went a year, NED. I had nothing. I was just doing my every 3 months of my surveillance. And then it came back again to my heart in July of 2024. And weirdly enough, I had no symptoms. Where it came back to, my heart rate was normal, my blood pressure was normal, I had no breathing issues, nothing. So thank God I had those 3-month scans because we caught it really early. I got open heart surgery again. We removed it. I had to reconstruct my entire heart. So like my left atrium is all a bovine patch. They basically took out the posterior wall. My atrial septum, which divides your two right and left, is a bovine patch. And then they had to get margins all the way into my right atrium, also a bovine patch. So I had to have a whole reconstruction of my heart, which was insane. And then when I was recovering from that, unfortunately, it had metastasized to my small bowel, which we don't really see. We normally see it metastasize to your lungs. So I had what was called intussusception, and basically my intestines were telescoping on themselves, but it was really because I had a tumor growing in there. So I had to have like emergency abdominal surgery. They removed that, got clear scans. And then since then, that was November of 2024, I have been clear of cancer, but I am on the gemcitabine docetaxel every 2 weeks. That's essentially my maintenance for right now, which I'm thankful for, but it's grueling.
If you are NED, why are they having you do the AIM every 2 weeks? And for how long? What's the plan?
Yeah, so not doing the AIM. I'm now on gemcitabine and
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
docetaxel. The reason is that one, I'm getting a lower dose than what you would normally get. So I'm getting a lower dose to begin with, but because it traveled to my small bowel, the chances of it coming back are much higher, even though I'm a year NED, than if I did not continue to get this treatment. And this treatment doesn't have a lifetime cap like the AIM does. So I can keep getting it until, I can either no longer tolerate it or I have progression, which then we would switch and kind of change it up that way. But I was saying to Tasha, and I have no protocol for this. So we're literally like flying the plane while learning to fly the plane. And currently this is working. So there's no end date in sight. This is just what it's going to be.
Yeah, you're flying the plane while learning to fly it without any manual on how to fly it.
Exactly.
So you're
And I
just
just
sort of
want
figuring
to
it out.
clarify, but just for our listeners, when you said your PET scan comes back and it's nowhere, it means your initial tumor was localized, correct?
Yes.
And then you were treated with chemo, the AIM chemo regime, and then were no evidence of disease. And then it recurred locally. And then after that surgery, it reoccurred metastatically.
Yes.
So after it had come back, she had already had open heart surgery. So when it had come back, it was then trying to find the thoracic surgeon who will go in there and cut that heart open again. And at that point, there was so much up in the air. I mean, I went and stayed with her for 10 days. We actually had dinner with all of you guys. She had her poured out in June. July, it
I
came
remember that.
back.
I
And
remember,
then,
yeah.
and then September 17th was your second surgery. And so from July 29th, when that scan was, until September 17th, we had no medical intervention because they were going back and forth if we were going to do we put her port back in? Do we do radiation at the tumor? I mean, I can remember being at the radiology appointment with Kate, and we get the call that someone wants to cut. So now everything stops with the radiologist that we were meeting with. And because it was going to be the proton beam therapy or some, and so it was, now everything shifted gears. And in that time, then they cut her open and she has to, that was September 17th, and she has to recover from that. And it was the beginning of November when I went out to visit. Now, at this point, too, she had started a couple new drugs that were causing some different issues. And so, cardiology and GI and everybody was kind of like, well, you've got these drugs, and unfortunately, the side effects are horrible. And literally, one night, she did not feel good and just passed out. And that's when we realized that there was an obstruction. And so my mom kept saying, there's an obstruction. I'm like, but she hasn't eaten anything, Mom. I'm like, you have to have something in there to be the obstruction. And so that's when it was very clear that the only thing that could be the obstruction was metastases. But again, there's no playbook for this. That's why when she has a new symptom, it's like, oh, it could be this, or it could be some weird thing we don't know about that'll maybe be named after Kate one day.
Well, and back to the conversation, that I like the way Brandy put it, of you're building the plane as you're learning to fly it. And not only that, but you're learning to do that without a manual. I think that's a feeling many people in the sarcoma world feel because of the rarity with sarcoma. But in your case, Kate, can you explain more to the listeners about like why there really is no manual? Is it because of the location? Is it because of how it has metastasized?
Yeah. So the reason why there's no playbook is because, fortunately, but unfortunately, not enough people have it.
Right.
So like, we don't want anyone to have it, but like, we need people to have it so we know what to do. So we used AIM because we know AIM is effective on sarcomas in general, and it does do its job for the most part. But yeah, I think that's the biggest piece, is like, the cardiac sarcoma is so rare. Every time I go to my clinic, every time I go to the hospital, doctors from all over cardiology come in and see me, and they're like, hey, we know that you have a cardiac sarcoma. We're probably never going to see one again. Do you mind if we bring in all our medical students? I'm like, sure. Like, the more the merrier, because if I can help one person down the line, then I can help one person down the line. The same goes for even my own oncologist. Like, when he's bringing in medical students, he always prefaces it with like, you're probably never going to see a cardiac sarcoma again. And like, I think that's what it is. It's so rare. I know sarcoma is rare, but then it's like, I'm even more rare with that. And then my subtype is rare as well. My subtype is intimal, meaning it's in the blood vessels that are already created. So like, you'll find it in your aorta, your pulmonary veins, like things like that, which is why it originated on the mitral valve, because they have the same sort of cells that you would find in your pulmonary arteries, your aortas, etc.
So for how long will you be on the maintenance chemo every 2 weeks?
Right now, for the foreseeable future, I've gone a year and a month so far. I don't know how. My doctors don't know how. I have zero signs of neuropathy, which I should already have neuropathy from how much I've gotten. Knock on wood, I have zero. I'm dealing really with nausea, which is it's pretty bad, but it's doable. The bone pain from the Neulasta shot. And then just like overall, like the fatigue is just something I can't describe. It's just I could get 12 hours of sleep and it's never enough sleep. The other thing is I cannot regulate my body temperature. So I'm constantly burning up, even though I have no fever, but if it just feels like I'm burning like from the inside out. But I'm going to just keep pushing through and I'm going to do it until I literally can't do it anymore or I get progression because it's working right now.
Well,
I have
because
a
you don't have a lot of choices.
Exactly.
right. And Kate, something about you is you're so well versed in your own care. Like you speak so well to it and explain it so well and so almost matter of factly, but something you said before we began recording that I kind of want to circle back to here is you've described the physical side effects and you are someone who's like, yeah, I'm just going to push through them. Like that's what I got to do.
Mhm.
But what is that like? What you said before was, I get 1 week where I have a great week and I have another week where I'm in treatment with all these side effects. And during that one good week, I have a glimpse of what real life is what you said is like.
Mhm.
And then it slips away during that week where I have to go back into treatment. So like you've described the physical side effects, but what is it like living that life?
Yeah, it's well, that's why I had said originally, like, I can only live one day at a time, right? Like, my main goal is I just have to make it to tomorrow. I can't look at a year from now because that there's too much that I can't control in that time frame, and there's too much variability. So all I have to do is make it to tomorrow. But how I kind of try to get through this mental health piece of having cancer is like I salivate at the days that are normal, right? Like I can go to the grocery store and I'm not bloated, or I can be out in public and it's normal. I can go see my friends. I just recently took my first plane trip in probably 2 years. And I felt so normal. I got to be on a plane. I got to go see my friends, but it's all so calculated because if my bad week is too bad and I need blood or now I got to adjust my dosage, like then my normal week is gone and I can never get it back. And so I get these glimpses of what life used to be like, what normal life is like, just being out and being in public and doing stupid things, right? Like going to the grocery store, going to Dunkin' Donuts, going to a restaurant is like I don't take for granted at all because I don't get them often. But I'm grateful for even this opportunity to go do that. If I only have 2 weeks out of a month, like great, I'm gonna I'm gonna live it up and do it for the 2 weeks out of the month and suffer the other 2 weeks. But like at least I'm here because I wasn't supposed to be here. And so that's kind of how I'm moving forward with life. I have to do small goals because I can't do the long term, which I think is different for a caregiver. I think a caregiver, and Chris, you can probably speak to this, but a caregiver, okay, Kate had clean scans. She's good. So for the next 6 weeks, like maybe a caregiver's like, oh, she just had clean scan, she's good, but like it's happening to me and it's in my body and it's come back within like a month. So I'm happy for like a day. Okay, I had clean scans, but like I can't let my guard down because it's come back. And so I got to keep living this life of enjoy it, but you have to be on your toes at all times.
Yeah, and Kristen, what is that like? We don't normally get to have with our guests that
Yeah.
other perspective of the care partner sitting right with us. So, what Kate's describing, what is your experience with that?
Yeah. My parents are there every day. When you're sick, you want your mom. My dad is there to kind of be the voice of reason sometimes. And I think for me, In the beginning, you get tasked with all these random weird things where I was the telephone line for a long time and I was the press secretary, where it's like, okay, here's everybody's update. Especially in the beginning, my parents see every day and what Kate lives every day. I get to be the one that comes in every few weeks and I'm on chemo duty. And so a different kind of feeling in that it's hard for me because I feel like with Kate, and she and I, we've been the sounding boards with each other, and we've been the like, oh my God, like I love mom, but this, I know dad's trying, but this, and it's like, yeah, you're living with mom and dad. That's a bummer. I think a lot of times my job is to keep the vibe light and to supply some you have to laugh. So I think I do add many things and it would be harder for me to live it every day, I think. And they do. And we joke like with dad just kind of is like you ask him questions about it and he forgets because he's thinking, oh, this is my kid. And my mom's trying to, bless her heart, pronounce all the drugs that Kate's on. But everybody just kind of gets up and does it every day. And I think we all find strength in each other. And it's been difficult, but it's been eye opening for sure.
So I have a question about how you communicate about sarcoma and Kate's sarcoma journey with your family and friends when Kate's not around and when you speak to her. Meaning, oftentimes, the family, the friends, the care partners, they don't want to say when they feel scared or don't know what's happening, they don't want to say too much. But I wonder what those conversations are like when Kate's not around. But she's around now.
Yeah.
It's like, is there
Mhm.
conversations about like she might not make it? What are we going to do? That kind of thing. Because I think people feel guilty having those thoughts.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot more of those conversations have probably happened with the adults, which is mom, dad, and Kate. I'm at the kids' table. But I also think that I'm pretty literal. And so when things don't make sense and I start to ask the questions to the other people, I know. And we've had when Kate first got sick, it was don't sugarcoat anything. Don't, and it was, I can remember originally, of course, my parents didn't, I wasn't there when the surgeon came in and said what she said. And I have kind of been blind to it all. I don't see it every day like they do. But we all still have a general understanding of what this is, what this disease is. We know what can happen. We know what this disease can do. We also know that, like Kate said, we live in 6-week intervals. I think it's obviously much easier for us to live that way than it is for Kate because she really does. She'll have one day where she's like, yep, good scans. And then it's like, oh, I got my echo. Oh, I've got all these meds and just more chemo. So we know the good, bad, and the ugly. And it just when it seemed like we hadn't seen a side effect before, Kate got it. So we've really seen pretty much all the things we could see from this sarcoma journey. But I think now the conversations are focus on the mortality. And I know that's kind of cliche for cancer patients and cancer caregivers and family members of people with cancer say that we focus on the positive because it's how we get through it. Because I think we've all had days like I know when everyone's having a bad day, but if she can have those 26 weeks where it's feeling great and she does feel normalcy, then she deserves every ounce of it. And so I think I have to take the cliche route by saying we don't focus on that part. And I think when things happen, like when the obstruction happened and we didn't know what it was, and it's like, well, she hasn't eaten in 8 days, so what do we think it could be? I think we've now expected the worst and will never be disappointed. is kind of the philosophy that we've thought about with and lived with this sarcoma journey.
And Kate, Kristen described, well, you're the big sister, and she has described it as following your lead, which I think is very big sister, little sister, classic dynamic. But do you feel as the big sister that you protect Kristen from information as the patient?
Yeah, she doesn't know when I get scans. She only
That's
knows
true.
after. I think for me though, and like maybe this is too deep, but like I'm a Virgo, so I'm a fixer. So I like it's almost like I don't care. It's a bad choice of words. I don't care about me, but like I need to make sure everyone around me is fine. So I'm going to give you all the information and maybe I won't be as blunt of like what it is, but I'm going to give it all to you. And I think we as a family decided, and like my mom's one of seven, my dad's one of six, so we have like a very very large family, we're very close, and we're in a group chat, and so I just update the group chat, and like sometimes they're tough updates, like when I had to give the update that like, hey, the cancer's back, and then I have to go into open heart surgery, and then 6 weeks later, hey, the cancer's back and I got to go into another surgery. Like I'll give it to you straight, but there are times where I feel like I have to let you down gently, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that because ultimately at the end of the day it's like happening to me. And this is the reality. This is what it is. And like sarcomas are vicious. They don't
Yeah.
care. They're relentless. So it's like that's what a sarcoma is. It doesn't care at all.
Well, it's interesting hearing you speak about it because I too am a big sister, and that's kind of why I asked that, is because I feel like I and other big siblings that I've spoken to with cancer do feel like you
Mhm.
have to continue to protect your family about that. And I was interested in that honest answer of like, I don't know how I feel about that because it's happening to me, yet I'm also trying to protect the people I love around me. And I think that
Right.
is a lot of patients feel that way, right? Like, okay, I'm dealing with this. And you mentioned the physical symptoms of like, yes, I'm going to deal with that. Like, we just got to do what we got to do. But sometimes the even bigger challenge is how do I make sure everybody else around me is okay? One, can I even do that? And two,
Mhm.
that's a huge undertaking and one
Mhm.
that I shouldn't even have to do as the person going through it. So,
Mhm.
how do you kind of reconcile that as both the big sister and the patient?
I mean, I think at this point it's part of like who I am, and that's something like I'll own and I'll always own it. Like I feel like I like can get the I'll get the news if it's bad news and then I'll immediately be like it's fine. Like I'll fight. You don't have to worry about me not fighting. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to not fight. I'll do that work and I don't care. I'll own that work. That's fine. But I don't know, there's just something I can't let go about not making sure everyone else is okay because it's such a horrible thing. It just sucks, right? Like it's so unfair and no one deserves it. And so I'm okay with just like owning that piece of it and having it be part of one of my duties that I need to do. And I also am very much need to be in control of things, and that's something I can control.
That's
I
also
can't
the big
control
sister.
anything else about my cancer. I can't control if it spreads. I can't control if it shrinks. I can control none of that. But if I can control this and I can control my attitude, those are the two things that kind of get me through.
It's a really good point.
So
Go
I
ahead, Brandy.
remember when you were at the dinner, and if I remember correctly, you were in a pretty good place.
Yep. I had literally just got my port out.
Right. I remember at that dinner, I remember exactly where y'all were even sitting at the table. And I remember having a conversation about all the plans.
Yeah.
And you're right, you can't control. I love that you say your weeks off, you're just doing everything you can. Everything becomes more special.
Hmm.
It's about really being happy about life,
Yeah.
right? And appreciating life. I think you're right. It's when you're put in a situation like this that you understand, I'm just happy that I can do even the smallest of things.
Oh, yeah. We have the golf tournament for my grandparents in their honor every year. Columbus Day weekend, and we just hit 20 years. And this year, of course, we got a nor'easter
Mm.
of rain, not even of snow, of rain. And, people were like, oh my God, it's rain, it's going to rain, blah, blah, blah. And all I could think about was like, I will take getting soaking wet than being in a hospital room where there's no windows. You have no idea, is it night? Is it morning? You have no time of day. You have no conception of like, you're like sundowning essentially. You're in there for God knows how long. You could be there for a week. You could be there for 2 days. You don't know. And like, I would take getting sopping wet every single day of my life than having to be in that hospital with a gown on, carrying a pole into the bathroom, people coming in, touching you, poking and prodding. You got to cover up your port before you can take a shower. Like, just, I would do anything for that. So that's how I kind of like look at it. Like, if it's 900 degrees outside, okay, like 900 degrees is better than in a hospital room.
I
It's
said,
better than getting chemo for the day. Like,
yeah, I
yeah, go
said
ahead.
to my parents about Kate, like, so this was the first tournament she's been able to come to since her diagnosis. And everyone has become huge followers of we have our Blue for Kate, sarcoma, everything that we do. So she was like the celebrity. So it was also like Kate's going to be there. So we had her like in the back, and she had a cake, and it had sunflowers on it, and it said, F cancer, and everyone was taking pictures with her.
I have a question for you. You have said a few times and also shared this before we recorded that your parents are one of your major supports. And I'm curious what you feel the dynamic is like being an adult who's being cared for by your parents. But I'm even more curious if having a sibling on this journey with you provides a different kind of support that your parents can't give just by innately the sibling relationship.
Yeah. So I'm very close with my parents, where Kristen probably couldn't live with my parents. I can live with my
No.
parents,
She's like, when are mom and
but
dad coming home? I'm like, God, get them out of my
um,
house.
I will say I want to be so independent, right? Like 40 years old, like own my own house, but the reality is I need help. When I am post chemo, I need help. I can't do it alone. I can maybe do it for a week by myself, but like after that, I can't. I know this week I'm probably going to need to go get blood. I can just feel it, and my heart rate is just very high. And I know that I started kind of low with my hemoglobin. So I know that I'm going to need probably blood this week. But living with my parents is a blessing because I get all that help. I don't really have to think about dinner. If the dog needs to go out, my dad can run the dog out. Groceries are taken care of. My mom comes to every single one of my chemos. I'm never alone at a chemo. If my mom doesn't come, my dad comes. My parents uprooted their lives to come move in with me. Thank God my dad works from home and my mom doesn't work, and they just live in my guest bedroom. So I'm extremely lucky. But on the other side of that, it's like sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, I'm 40 years old and I have to rely on my parents to do grocery shopping, to do taking the dog out, to do taking the recycling, the trash. I'm just so weak. I can't shovel. I can't go out and shovel snow. And my 70-year-old dad is going out and shoveling snow. And so there's things like that where I look at my life and I'm like, what the hell is my life right now? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I wouldn't be here if I did not have my parents literally uproot their entire lives and move here with me to like make sure that I'm okay every single day. If it wasn't for my dad, Tasha, I'm sure you can probably attest to this. After you get chemo, it is so hard to eat. I wouldn't eat. And that's not good either, right? I need to keep building my hemoglobin to like get that up. But like, I just like, I'm so weak. It's just like, whatever. I won't cook today. I'm fine. I'll make it till tomorrow. So just these little small things that you don't even recognize that you need the help on. I don't know what I would be without them. Now, with Kristen, in those times where I have no alone time, right?
If mom makes
I
me go to
get
the
this
post
like,
office one more time.
well, yeah, there's different things where like with my sibling, she could be out here and I don't know, the dishes could be in the sink for 3 days and like nothing, you know what I mean? Like there wouldn't be like, why are there dishes in the sink? Or like, different things like that, like where you could just complain
She can
and
also be like,
in
"You're
different ways.
annoying me, stop," to me, where she can't really say that to my mom.
Yeah, yeah, like yeah. It's just it's a very tight line to toe, really.
I was going to say, do you feel like because your sibling, I mean, Kristen has known you her whole life, and you
Hmm.
have known Kristen for most of your life as the older sibling. Do you feel like with that dynamic of like having this person who you've grown up with, who has been through every phase of life with you, now including the cancer diagnosis, do you feel like having her there along for the ride provides this like sense of, I don't know if normalcy is the word, but just like
Hmm.
someone who knows me before, someone who knows me during, someone who knows me after, this cancer character in my life? What does that provide you with as
Yeah.
the patient?
Oh, for sure. It's so helpful because, right, like I texted Kristen last night being like, Chris, I'm 2 seconds away from having to have mom come in here because I think I'm going to throw up everywhere. It's just like, I don't have to have a filter. I can just say whatever is on my mind and she just gets it and like knows. And we use dark humor for sure to get through this because I mean that's just kind of like who she and I are and that's the way we deal with it.
Yeah.
So she's been like a very integral part of this whole journey, even from far away.
I think it's easy to be vulnerable with each other, whereas it's difficult to show vulnerability with, your parents because your parents are already having a hard time. This is their retirement time and they're already having a hard time seeing their child struggle. So it's like they have there where they can go in and close their door. My mom, that's her husband. My dad, that's his wife. Like that's who you are vulnerable with. My husband is in the service and so he's not here, so I'm, as much as Kate is alone, I'm alone a lot of the time, and I think it's very easy for us to be vulnerable with each other. I think that has been like a huge part of this, where she can just text me and be like, I'm done. I'm done with being nauseous. I'm done with getting my blood drawn. I'm done with my hemoglobin sucking. I'm done with the Lovenox shots. I'm done with it all. And, you can just, you should be done. This sucks. I hate the guilt of you wish it was happening to me and not you. And it's like, you don't want it to happen to anybody.
To the planning point, Kate, we talked about you not really being able to have plans.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's indefinite in terms
Mm-hmm.
of you'll be on this chemo regimen indefinitely, which doesn't allow you to make plans. So, what now?
I mean, I try to like so I live in like Chris said, I live like one day at a time, right? Like my only goal today is I just got to get to tomorrow. And then I live in like these 6 weeks increments with my scans. So within those two things, I try to plan out like every 3 months me going to do something. So I'll take an extra week off of chemo. So instead of getting it every 2 weeks, I'll get it every three. That's what I did for Christmas. I just recently had a reunion with my college friends, my teammates from college. And I know that one of my cousins, his son is turning 5 in July and he's having a Christmas in July birthday party. So I know that is one of my goals. I'm going to that birthday party. So I bump it out that way. It's just everything has to be so calculated. And when I know I'm going to travel the week before, I'm in the clinic, right? Like they're checking my blood. They got a seat for me in case I need a transfusion. I've gotten like 30 plus transfusions of blood. I don't know what I would do without all these people donating. So I kind of work that way and like that's better than nothing. Like my grandmother's from Maine, she used to say that's better than a peck in the head with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta just like take it for what it is. That's how I'm just dealing with it is I just kind of work in those increments and like I'm so lucky that my care team
Come on in.
is all about like, yeah, Kate, like go, you're good. go take that extra week, go have fun, go travel, go do what you need to do, go see family, etc. Like I'm so grateful for them and like their understanding of it as well.
One of the things, Kate, that I love about you is that you don't wait to live your life. And I know you're in a position where you have to be so calculated about those plans, but it would be very easy to be doing chemo every 2 weeks and just say, I'm just gonna relax. I'm gonna rest. I'm just gonna, wait this one out till I feel better. And I think when you are given a plan that is maintenance and you're also told this is indefinite, if it's indefinite, what's the point in doing all of it if you're not gonna live you're with the time that you have? And I
Exactly.
love about you that you plan to live your life with the time that you have, even when you don't feel well. And I think like that is, I hate using the word inspiring because we're these unintentional inspirations
Hmm.
when we're cancer patients. That's what my buddy Mike always says about his diagnosis. But there are so many people who have the next day guaranteed. I mean, none of us have it guaranteed, but they're not going through a cancer diagnosis and don't live to the capacity that you live. And I think
Hmm.
that's, in a way, I wonder, do you think it's like a beautiful gift out of this experience, if you can even call it that? But also, like, I know it's so intentional with you.
Yeah. So it's so weird because right before I was diagnosed, one of my teammates' husbands was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and had spread to his liver. And so when I got I know that we don't have the same cancer, obviously, but when I got my diagnosis, like I immediately called Ra and I was like, Ra, like, this is what I got. Like, I don't know what to do. And the first thing that he said to me was, you can't be a number. There's data out there that's going to tell you, you're going to look up your cancer and it's going to be like, you have a 13% chance of making it 24 months, whatever. He's like, you literally can't be a number because my cancer is going to be different than it's going to be in you, and my body's going to react differently than you are to the different treatments. So like you can have this knowledge and you can like keep it in the back of your head, but like you can't limit yourself to that number because it's just not a way like to approach this devastating news. So then I started going into therapy like weekly, which I highly recommend if you have cancer. And I'm all about control. So the thing that I had to work on the most is I can control my attitude. And the attitude can definitely help. And there's probably 4 out of the 7 days, I'm probably texting Kristen being like, I'm done. I'm not doing the chemo anymore. Like, I can't do it. One more day, blah, blah, blah. And then it like comes to the next day and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Like, let's just go do it. Like, you'll be fine. And so that's just kind of like how I've had to approach it. I've had to work hard. It's not like I wake up every day and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm here to beat cancer again today. It is a absolute grueling mind game to get yourself into this thing of, okay, your life sucks at the moment. You have to go fight. You can't not fight. Well, at least this is what I'm saying to me. You can't not fight. You got to go fight. Do everything that you can and just get through this week. And next week is your good week. And you're good and you can go do whatever you want. Go out to a restaurant with friends. Go up to and visit your friends that have kids that you haven't seen in a couple weeks. Like your friends are flying in from out of state and you can go have a great time. I have like every year for the past 2 years, we've done my best friends from high school are from Canada and they're flying in again for March. And so I know that's what I'm looking forward to. That's my next thing is they're coming in for a week. I don't have chemo and I'm just going to have fun. And so that's just how I'm approaching everything because it's the only thing I can do at this point. I'm not going to give up, but at the same time, I'm not going to let my life pass me by too. Like I have to be able to do both.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Earlier, you mentioned your ex was there when you were diagnosed. And I wonder how much of your sarcoma journey impacted your relationship. If not at all, or
Yeah.
you don't have to talk about it. But I think other people actually struggle with this as well.
I will say that I was blessed with the best caretaker as my ex. There was no one better than, I will give her all the credit in the world. There was no one better than that. After open heart surgery, you can't use your hands. She was literally wiping my butt because you can't use your arms because you don't want it to open up your sternum. She showered me every day. This diagnosis humbled me for sure. I will say, like, for being as young as we were, it took a lot, it took a major toll on both of our lives. And I think that at the end of the day, I will always have to deal with it because it's happening to me. But I think for the betterment of both of us, it was better that we were not together after I got to a more stable place because of just not so much of like me taking away her life. That's not really what it was, but it was, she was so young, and I mean I am too, but like this is just something that it sucks no matter what. No matter where you are in your relationship, it's a grueling thing. And like, yeah, she doesn't have cancer, but she might as well have cancer. That's what it is at the end of the day.
It was a loss for everybody. And just because you made it through the hard thing and you made it through the hard thing together doesn't mean you continue the journey together. And we definitely learned that. So we were forever grateful for everyone.
The other thing too is, and you could probably do a whole podcast on this. We probably would have to do 5 or 6. It's a lot for a 31-year-old to become a power of attorney of your spouse that's essentially incapacitated and navigate the insurance world and what comes with that. And that is a lot.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right, Kate. It is a lot for somebody to take on in so many different ways that you really could have 5 podcast episodes on just the insurance piece of it, but on every aspect of it. You kind of have to go through it no matter what. But what you said resonated about, like, she may as well have had cancer, because that's exactly the person in that position is totally in that. They're the closest thing to the driver's seat with you in that.
And I think you think in your vows in sickness and in health, and you say yes, like of course I do. You don't know what sickness is until it's hit you, right? Like, it's not just that quick one-liner of in sickness and in health. Because I will tell you again, I will say I will give her 1,000% credit. My entire family will. My mother-in-law flew out. She was a nurse for 25 years. She took care of all my wounds. I had chest tube wounds. I was a hot mess. And she came out and she took care of all of them, so I didn't get infections, things like that. I will give them 1,000% credit. They were more than enough in terms of being my caregivers. She was excellent. I will never, ever, ever forget the care that she provided me during the roughest time of my life, and hers too. I think it just maybe showed us we need to go our separate ways.
Yeah. It's tough, right? I've heard this several times. At some point, the relationship gets blurred. Also, because now I'm your care partner and not your spouse, right?
Yep.
And that dynamic changes so much. And it's really tough to go through.
As someone who has said those vows, been with someone during a diagnosis, if there is a new couple stumbling into treatment, do you think it's possible to come back from the patient care partner relationship into romance again, or into partnership? Like, I'm sure your view of intimacy I mean, I know it did for me. It completely changes when you've had someone wipe your butt, and be like, what you think of as intimacy has shifted, I imagine. Do you think it's possible to come back to that and have the relationship shift back? Or like, what advice would you give to a couple navigating that?
I mean, honestly, I think it could for sure. I think maybe if I had to do it over again, I think after diagnosis, immediately go into couples therapy to help with, like, not couples therapy because you're not getting along, but like you have this
Hard
major
conversations.
thing. Yeah, you have this major thing in your life. Like, I mean, her and I had to have discussions of like, we're waiting for pathology to come back. We're waiting for the PET scan to come back. And like, death, right? Like you have to talk about death. And we had to talk about, do I need to take out a life insurance policy? There's just a lot of stuff that you shouldn't have to deal with, right, in your 30s, but it was reality.
Kate and Kristen, we've learned so much from you both. And Kristen, you say that you learn from Kate in this, you follow Kate's lead in this. So, Kate and Kristen, what would be one thing that you would leave with our guests? If you were like, of all the things you could have learned from me today, this is the one thing I want you to take away.
I think like for us that's worked really well is kind of finding where you flourish in. It's learning what you can do for that person from where you are and what you can work with. Obviously, mom's really good with going to the appointments and doing the things. Dad's really good with interpreting and helping us understand what and why and what's going on. And so I think finding your role in this and having open and hard conversations. There's just so many things that pop up. So have the conversations and establishing who fits where in the journey.
I would definitely just say, like, being the cancer patient, you just cannot limit yourself to a number. I think that's like such an important thing, is that miracles happen every day, advances in medicine happen every day, and just going through this journey is just control what you can control and don't limit yourself to a number, because take in your diagnosis and like let yourself mourn it for as long as you need, but then know going forward that like you're not a number.
It's good advice. And Kate, if people wanted to connect with you after this episode, where can they do that?
Yes, so I am documenting my whole cancer journey on Instagram. It's at Blue for Kate. It's public. Anyone can follow, DM me, whatever you want. I'm happy to talk about anything.
Awesome. We will link that in the show notes.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you both so much for your time today. It is always such a joy to see your faces and to have a conversation with you too. And we'll have to do a dinner again in Chicago sometime. But
Yes.
in the meantime, it's nice to see you over the internet and have a conversation with you.
Yes.
So thank you again.
Thank you so much for including us.
Thanks for joining us today. Did this episode resonate with you? You can join the discussion about this episode in our Sarcoma Stories Facebook group, linked in the show notes. If you found this podcast helpful, your feedback is incredibly valuable and helps to create more awareness about sarcoma while sharing vital resources with someone who may need it. Be sure to leave a rating and review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.